counterattack. They do the same thing. They send a bunch of jets over and bomb Tel Aviv, God forbid, or Jerusalem.
Or Dimona. What about Dimona?
Possibly. And then and then Israel. Then it's back in Israel's court. What do? They get totally rankle irate. They're not going to stand for that because the Iranian attack probably caused, let's say, round numbers, 1,500, 2,000 casualties downtown Tel Aviv, where I was recently on a trip. And so they counterattack with more attacks. So then you've got an Iraqi, essentially a low-level war going on, tit for tat, which Israel would not put up with for very long. At some point, they go tactical, and that's when all hell breaks loose. You don't know what's going to happen at that point. What do the Russians do? So the Russians tell Israel, stop it, cut that out, or we're going to do X. The Chinese, I think, would generally stay out of it, although they're getting a lot of oil from Iran right now. So that's the wild card. What would they do? So it's a very potentially very difficult situation over there, which has been on simmer all summer because it's the summer. Nobody's going to do anything in the summer, but Israel says come October that things are going to change. They can't wait forever. So that's the scenario I see.
What about the treatment, Israel's treatment of the Palestinians? Now, under the UN declaration, they were supposed to share that little slip of land.
Yep.
And once the Jews took over there, they moved over, they kept moving their boundaries up, and until basically the Palestinians are enclosed in cities that are basically prison camps, aren't they? Now you've been over there. I haven't been over there. So
I'll give you my personal view.
Okay.
And I'm not. I'll preface this by saying I'm not an expert on the on Mideast politics. I'm absolutely not an expert. There's 50,000 other people that know more than I do. But my personal view of this is a lot of grand opportunities have been lost there. If the following things happened, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in. If somehow the Palestinian people, and I think they should have their own country, if the Palestinian people at some point in the last, let's say, since 1948, when Israel was established, they could have figured a way to put aside all their, age-old enmities against Israel, and figured a way just to coexist for a while with Israel. Israel would not be in a position where and stop the rockets, stop the explosions, stop the terrorist bombings inside Israel, and allowed and figured a way to coexist with the state of Israel for 10 years. That would have allowed Israel to open the borders, to allow more free trade to occur across those borders. It would have developed the Palestinian economy much more than it is now. And Palestine, those territories could have developed, Gaza and the West Bank could have developed into strong economies. And when you have a strong economy and you have people working, a relatively young population working, they don't have as much time, free time, to throw rockets at Israel. And it would have just developed, and we probably would have had a two-state solution signed 20 years ago. But for some reason, the Palestinians were unable to put aside all these age-old enmities and say, let's be rational about this. If we allow the area to be peaceful, and we can figure a way to coexist with Israel, and if they're at least showing some willingness to work with us. In other words, let us have our own country, let us have a thriving economy, let us develop our infrastructure, et cetera, all the things that you have to have a working, vibrant economy. We wouldn't be in this situation. But they for some reason, they couldn't. Hamas was too dead set against having peace with Israel, and that's where we find ourselves today. Now, Gary's over there now. He's trying to find some solution. He's pulling one way, everybody else is pulling the other way. He wants to find some sort of solution, but it's a really difficult. I'm not, as I said, I'm not an expert, but that is just generally what I see occurring over there right now.
You know, I have sold all over. I've traveled the whole country, 49 states. I've sold in Manhattan. I've sold in the Bronx. I've sold in Queens. I've been there. Been down on Skid Row. I've I sold to shop owners that were Jewish. I sold to shop owners that were probably Muslim. I've sold to shop owners that were Christians, and they all got along there on the island of Manhattan.
Oh yeah.
You know, I have a hard time understanding why they can't do that in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv. I mean, you know, it's like all blacks ain't out to rob you, ain't all blacks out to sell you drugs, you know. So why would all Palestinians be thought of as terrorists in our press?
Yeah, well, I think what you're pointing out there is in any country, especially as largely as America, for instance, or in any region as large as the Mideast, if we take it as a whole region and not just as an individual country, there's going to be pockets of people who have as one of their desires no peace, ever. I mean, because their existence as a terrorist organization, for instance, or as a you know, somebody, there's going to be some group that's always against peace. And in the United States, you know, you're going to have the military. You know, they exist because if everything was peaceful and throughout the world, there would be no need for a military. There would be no need for a Lockheed Martin. There would be no need for a Raytheon. There would be no need for the military-industrial complex. So you're going to always have troublemakers somewhere looking for a problem. And I think that's what you just described just then. There's people, most people, I'd say 95% of people want to live in a country that's peaceful. They are willing to look at the other guy not as them or the other, just as another guy down the street, which is me. That's me. I've been in business as a small businessman for 25 years. I've dealt with all different types of people. I've done business in almost, I'd say in about 40 different countries. And when somebody calls me up I've had people from Syria call me up, and they know who I am. They know what my background is, and they say we want to license some movies from you. We want to license some films. And I say, fine, let's go. And we do it. We do a deal. That somebody calls me from. This doesn't happen every day, but it does happen. Then somebody from Egypt a year later. Oh, we want to. We're starting a new TV station. We want to do some business with you, or Japan, or China, or Russia. So in business, there were none of these demarcations that we see in politics. I will do business with you if you have something I want. That is the ideal situation.
That's kind of interesting. I just put in an application, a letter to Al Jazeera of America.
Yeah.
And you know, this is a world problem. I mean, this friend of mine, I put him on the cover of my magazine when he was running for governor. Was of Nevada. His name was Aaron Russo. Did From Freedom to Fascism, and before that, he did Mad as Hell. And these I don't know. Just got to thinking about Aaron and lost it. I mean, he was really a good man. Now, how do we? You ask how can we make an effect? How can we make a difference here? What about this new world order? I mean, I sent chills up my spine when I heard George Bush talk about it, and even the Protocols of the Elders of Zion talks about one world government under Satan, and who knows who wrote it? Doesn't matter who wrote it. Is that what do you see as a problem here? I mean, it's not just where is it the one world government? Is it the bankers? Is it fractional reserve banking system we got here? Where do our problems lie?
Well, that's a huge question. I don't know if I can answer it in the five in the 5 hours we have allotted here. But I think generally, well, a few things come to mind. One is let's just limit the discussion for the time being to the problems in the United States.
Okay.
Another problem I see in this country, in addition to the political correctness thing I mentioned before, was we have a tremendous, terrible divide, and this is sort of something I address in Obama Confidential, but in a humorous way. But I'll talk about it more seriously now, Clay. We have a terrible divide in this country, and which has become really bad in the last 3 to 4 years. Economic divide. You have people in this country who are pulling down Gatsby-esque incomes. I mean, you have businessmen, leaders of whatever business, making hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's a sliver who represent a sliver of the population, the top 1/2, 1%, whatever the percentage is, and they can't seem to make enough money. It's every day I got to make more money. We got to make more money. We got to squeeze. We got to fire 1,000 people because our bottom line isn't good enough. Walmart has to fire people because they're not making enough money. They're making billions. I don't know how much money Walmart made last year. Maybe what it was, $150 billion or something. Like Exxon Mobil. They're making these huge, gargantuan pre-tax incomes, and it's not enough. And they're firing. And in their mind, it's not enough, and they're firing people. So as a result, you have the small sliver of the country making these huge incomes, and then then there's another 90%, you and me, who are getting by, barely getting by. Who are we? We are the quietly desperate, and we're just getting by paycheck to paycheck. Not me. I'm okay, sort of, but there's a lot of people around me who are if they miss one paycheck, they're screwed. You know, and this is going to lead eventually, if you expand the scenario out, eventually this can't hold. The country can't hold under this scenario. It's eventually going to fall apart. Henry Ford used to pay his workers enough money that they could afford automobiles. He knew that if he didn't pay these guys enough money on the assembly lines, they couldn't even afford to buy what they were making, and they'd be pissed off, and they'd go on strike, or they'd have a revolution, or whatever. Now fast forward to 2013, 80 years later, or whatever it is, that these companies are paying their workers not enough to afford what they're making. They're paying the workers on the assembly lines at Amazon. Amazon's a great. I like Amazon, by the way. I just want to say that. But as an example, they pay them like $13 in the warehouse. It's probably not enough. And a lot of these companies are paying their workers just barely enough. They're paying them $20,000 a year. That's not enough to support a family. Now, one manifestation of this huge gap in incomes is a lot of people. I didn't hear very many people mention this, or I didn't hear anybody mention this. But a couple of weeks ago, you recall, this issue came up about the students and the law that was going to expire, where they were going to be paying twice as much on their student loan interest as before. Do you remember that?
No, I didn't catch that.
Okay, well, students were paying like 3.5% on their government guaranteed loans, and they were going, unless the Congress did something, the loan rates were going to go way up to like 6.5%. They're going to double, essentially. And by a huge bipartisan majority, it was something like 9 no votes or something. So it was like 500 to 9 or something like that. The Congress agreed to roll back pass the bill to roll back the interest rate to 3.5%. You know why they did that? not because they like students so much, but they knew there would be a revolution. You know how many students are out there that all these loans? Millions. $3, $4, $5 million. 3, 4, 5 million people. They would have foment a revolution. I'm sorry, somebody whispered in their ear, guys, you better get your acts together. Because if we don't lower these interest rates on all these students, for example, you're going to have a revolution. You're going to have you're going to have Occupy Wall Street #2. So that is my beef right now and my analysis of what's going on in the country. You've got this terrible divide between the haves and the have-nots. This has to be addressed somehow. I don't know how you're going to do it. I'm not going to run for Congress. I'm too old not to run for patience.
Well, I have helped people run for the office of president. I've been involved in political campaigns in the Republican Party across the country when Charles Collins was trying to run. But the problem is the people that may want to make a change or to do something really good for Americans rather than good for that 1% or 2% that control 95% of the wealth. I mean, I've seen the scales there, the banksters, and our founding fathers even warned us about it. If you ever allow a private bank to issue your money, the banks and the corporations that spring up around them will leave your children homeless in the land we conquer.
Yep. Yep.
And that seems to me to be exactly what's happening now. So if you can't, if all of the people, whether it's Barack Obama or Mitt Romney, if they are all working for the bankers or rather than the American people, we're not going to make any progress towards liberty or maintaining or restoring our Constitution as it stands.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with that. And the third issue is the healthcare system in the country. We have a terrible problem in healthcare right now, where we have a lot of people uninsured, and even those people that are working and making decent incomes can't afford these sky-high premiums they're paying for medicine. You walk into a hospital and you say, I got a broken thumb. 2 weeks later, you get a bill for $10,000, and you go, like Jackie Gleason, humma, what's this $10,000 bill for? And then you look at the itemization, they're charging you like $1,000 for a bandage or something, and you can get a transplant for your heart in the United States will cost you $200,000, and I think you can go up to Canada and they'll do it for like 10% of that, or you can go to Europe somewhere and get a major operation for whatever it is in the United States. It's 10%. So for some reason they can do it over there a lot less. Here, medicine is very, very expensive. There's a greed factor involved in all that. That has to be addressed. I don't know how you change human nature.
Now, the greed factor, let's talk about the greed factor for a second, because to me, part of the problems here, I've been to a hospital. I was involved in a motorcycle accident. They rushed me to the hospital, said I fought them all the way, wouldn't get on the stretcher, didn't want to get in the ambulance. They got me to the hospital. They kept me drugged for 3 months on morphine, Valium, Halcyon, Haldol. I got no memory of 3 months in the hospital. When I did become conscious and I found out I had suffered from 3 broken ribs and ran up a $750,000 hospital bill. I'm not too fond of these. I've seen the markups that the pharmaceutical companies make on Valium, on Luvox, on Paxil, whatever their names are. And I've lost a lot of friends to overdosing on pain pills. More people die from, we got 100,000 people a year die from prescription medications.
Oh yeah, it's a problem.
And on the converse side here, nobody's ever died of smoking pot, folks, and that's a Schedule 1 narcotic here.
Yeah.
That's insanity to me, but.
Yeah, a personal story, I guess, that sort of accentuates what you just said about being in the hospital. About a year ago, I went into my doctor and I said, I got a pain over here, and he looked at it and he said, well, I don't know what it is, but I want you to have these tests. So I went over to the specialist. He said, I don't know what you had, but I want you to have these tests. And I said, okay. So 5 tests later, he said, we don't know what you had, but here's the bill. That was
Okay.
they couldn't figure out what it was, you know.
Stay with me for just a second here.
Yeah.
I've lost something here.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get it back here. Hang on a second. We'll get this
Sure.
up.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please enter your host code.
Our menu has recently changed.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
Okay. All right. We're back here. We got just a couple of minutes here, and a break's going to come up. This show will be archived at freeamerican.com, folks. And we got 1 more hour. You can stay with me, can't you, Mark?
Sure, yeah.
All right, great. We're talking with Mark Berlin, ObamaConfidential.com, www.markberlin.net, and we've got a break coming up here. Then we'll be right back with you. If you want to support this show, I suggest buy a book. Go to shop.freeamerican.com. We'll be right back here.
Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for healthcare and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests. Tune in Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time for Liberation Nation with Deacon John, where America comes to hear the truth. I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try. This is Thomas, a.k.a. Matt Maynard. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind. Yeah. An open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Topics that drive the discussions of your favorite talk shows with TalkStream Live's topic-driven talk radio. List and promote real-time talk radio topics, or post the topics that you want to hear. Hot topics are tweeted and retweeted, and include simple click-to-listen audio links. The future of talk radio is topic-driven talk radio. Available now at TalkStreamLive.com.
Test.
Is your data safe? You have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation. In survival, from gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio.
Where you know where it is. Our menu has recently changed. Please reload differently to the new prompt.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
USDA offline food preservation website and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it, I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
All right, welcome back. My guest is Mark Berlin. That's www.obamaconfidential.com and www.markberlin.net. Mark, can you give me a sample of one of the letters that you created for Obama Confidential?
Yes, let me see here. I'm trying to think here. How much time do we have?
We have an hour now. 1 hour.
We have an hour. Okay.
If I'm still getting, hold on just a second. I'm getting, there's a problem with this call. This is on the new modem here, and looks like shows I'm still connected to everything, but it says there's a problem to call. I can hear you, so I don't know which line I'm down on for the moment.
Right.
But
can you hear me now?
yes, sir, I can hear you. Let's go ahead with it. We're still on Blog Talk. We're still on Revolution, and we're still with you. So looks like everything's working here.
Okay.
And,
here's a letter, Clay, that I wrote. Well, here's a letter from the one of the members of the Kennedy clan. You know who they are?
Yes.
Okay, a member of the Kennedy clan wrote a letter to President Obama. Do you want me to read that one?
Yeah.
I'll read that. Okay,
Yeah,
this is a funny letter. Dated January 24th, 2013. Dear Mr. President, my name is Ron Kennedy. You don't know me, but I'm a member of the younger generation of Kennedy cousins.
Hold on just a second here. Hold on just a second. Let me plug some numbers in here. We did lose someone.
Our menu
menu has recently changed.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
Okay. All right. Mark Berlin's my guest. Go ahead, Mark. We're reading a letter here that you wrote, supposedly from Kennedy to Obama. Go ahead.
Right, January 24th, 2013. Dear Mr. President, my name is Ron Kennedy. You don't know me, but I'm a member of the younger generation of Kennedy cousins, which includes Douglas, Michael, Mary, Rory, Willie, Cara, Ted Kennedy Jr., as well as Caroline and Patrick, to name only a very few. Currently, I'm working at a Subway sandwich shop in Bethesda, Maryland. I enjoy my job, and am in line for a promotion to assistant manager, which I hope will occur in the next few months. At a recent Kennedy clan gathering at the Kennedy clan compound in Hyannisport, I made a short speech about my uncle, Senator Ted Kennedy, who, as you know, passed away in 2009. I related how, when water skiing one summer with Uncle Ted, I had taken a bad fall in the water. Back in the towboat, I cried and said I never wanted ever to water ski again. But then Uncle Ted took me aside and told me I should absolutely never give up, and that I should get back out on the water and keep water skiing until I get it right. Right after my speech, two of my cousins, I forget which ones, there's so many of them, took me aside and told me how it had reminded them of Uncle Ted, and also of my two other uncles, John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy, and wondered if I had ever seriously considered entering politics. My answer was that, despite my famous last name, never once in my entire life had I ever seriously considered entering politics. For as long as I can remember, I had always wanted to be either a sports broadcaster or in the catering business. When broadcasting didn't happen, a Kennedy clan cousin helped me get a job at a nearby Subway's, and I discovered I thoroughly enjoyed it. Almost 6 months have passed since my speech, and even though I'm perfectly happy being one of those rare breeds, an anonymous Kennedy, I've come under intense pressure from my cousins and the extended Kennedy clan, which now includes close to 12,000 people, to run for elective office. Several weeks ago, after consulting with my other cousins, Sidney, Mark, Tim, Anthony, and Christopher, I decided I should probably throw my hat into the ring and make a run for the open Massachusetts Senate seat recently vacated by Senator Kerry. As you know, Senator Kerry and Uncle Ted were not only colleagues but also close friends. Even their last names are similar. No one will ever really adequately fill Senator Kerry's shoes, or certainly Uncle Ted's shoes. But considering I'm under intense pressure to fill his shoes by the entire Kennedy clan, who, if you recall, supported you strongly during your first as well as second runs for president, it seems like a golden opportunity I probably shouldn't pass up. Mr. President, before I take this profound leap into the unpredictable and sometimes distasteful morass of American politics, I'd like to ask if I can count on your support should I decide to run for Senator Kerry's seat. If your answer is yes, then I will immediately make an announcement of my candidacy. With your help, sir, it is my intention not only to help you, but to do whatever is necessary to make America the great country Uncle Ted and the entire Kennedy clan had always hoped it could and should be. Sincerely yours, Ron Kennedy. And here's Obama's response. White House, January 27, 2013. Dear Ron, Thanks for contacting me about your potential run for John Kennedy's Senate seat. Massachusetts, the Bay State, has a proud liberal tradition which the entire Kennedy clan has played a huge and important role in maintaining. Please call the White House switchboard at 202-456-1414 and leave your telephone number and best time to call with my personal secretary, Katie Johnson. Either I or someone on my staff will then call you back so we can discuss your plans in more detail as well as coordinate a strategy. Good luck in whatever you should decide to do. Sincerely, Barack Obama. So that's the Kennedy clan, a letter from the Kennedy clan, which now numbers about 12,000. As I said, I'm looking through here, Clay, for something a little bit shorter.
All right, I'm still hang on here.
Yeah.
I'm having a problem getting on a couple of things here. We still got you on. It looks like we've got Revolution back
Welcome
on.
to Blog Talk Radio.
All right.
Please enter your host pin when finished.
Our menu has recently changed.
Since it appears